Minneapolis is mourning after a shooter opened fire at a Catholic school, killing 2 children, injuring 14 others, and injuring 3 adults.
Yeah, the FBI is investigating the attack as a hate crime. Joining us now is WCCO reporter Caroline Cummings. Caroline, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Caroline, I know this neighborhood very, very well. I lived nearby for a number of years. Can you describe for people just how tight-knit this community is, and especially just how generational this church is?
Yeah, that's right, Jamie. You know this well as a former Minnesota resident living in the Twin Cities and working for WCCO. And it is a really tight-knit community. Anytime there is a school, no matter if it's a Catholic school or a public school, that community is close because you're sending your child off to be educated there, and you naturally form bonds with people. And I think with a Catholic community in particular, you know, you've also got the parish, the church, so you have churchgoers beyond those who might send their children to that school. And as we know from the police chief yesterday, 3 of the people who are injured are adults in their 80s. They're parishioners who attended that school mass alongside those children yesterday morning. And speaking to the just broader Twin Cities community, everybody here is feeling and really the broader Minnesota community, I should say, is really feeling this tragedy acutely, because when it happens to one of us, it really feels as though it happens to all of us.
And especially when it happens to such young children. Caroline, we know you interviewed the 10-year-old boy who says he was saved by his friend. He was so composed. It was almost alarming, because you know these poor kids have to be traumatized to some extent.
Yeah, he was so brave to speak with us, and it kind of happened. A lot of people, don't know the process, right? So I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. We're just at a location, the closest we can get to the street, where the school resides or is, and he was there, and his grandfather. I was walking back from a grocery store. I tried to get a bathroom break in there after a long day. And his grandfather said, Weston was there, and he wants to say something. And so we've got his family's permission before he went on camera. And first, when I saw him and I heard that before I even knew he was ready for or would be interviewed, I just said, buddy, you're so brave. And I think that's so important for a child to hear in this moment, especially from a stranger who's asking him questions about this really traumatic event. But what stuck out to me so much is, like you said, his composure, yes, but also where I felt his innocence so deeply was how he talked about kind of almost in just a matter-of-fact way, we practice for this at school, but we didn't practice for it at a church. And that just really is something that I'll think about for a long time, because this is what it is like to be a child in America today. You do have active shooter drills, and you when you're a little kid, you want to follow the rules. And this little boy was just like, we knew how to do this, but it didn't happen in the place where we practiced, and that really hurt deeply. But also the way he spoke about how his friend Victor saved him. I mean, that is something that is just so profound, that a friend would dive in front of another child, his friend, in church, is just remarkable. And I asked him, do you have anything to say to your friend? And he said, "You're brave, and I'm praying for you." And he said he was praying for everybody in the hospital, which, again, coming from a child who's just experienced something so horrible, a 10-year-old, to show that sort of compassion and composure was really, truly remarkable.
I know, and the church leaders yesterday said that they had thought that hope would guide them through this school year. And I did listen to that whole interview, Caroline. I'm choking up right now. Having a stepson around the same age as that little boy, thinking about, we recently had a conversation with him about these drills at school. And he said, I'm more scared of a school shooter than I am an earthquake living here in Southern California. So to hear him, though, say that he's praying for his friend and hear the composure, it did give me hope that this next generation will have some understanding. And, you heard the local leaders talk about it, that it's not just about prayers, there should be action. So many leaders showed up at the press conference yesterday. It seemed that is really the message. Is that resonating with people there, that this soon after a shooting, we usually do hear the calls for hopes and prayers. But this was immediately, we need action from local leaders.
Yeah, and yes, you're so right. The local leaders were there, the mayor, the governor, the police chief. But actually somebody who is not familiar being in front of a podium that I thought said the most resonant message of yesterday was the principal. Yeah. Who, of course, is traumatized and, through tears said that he loved his community and he praised the teachers as heroes. He called them the dream team, which I thought was beautiful. And he also said, that the community lost 2 angels, which was just, like daggers in the heart to hear that. But what he said, he quoted a African proverb, which is that when you pray, move your feet. And I thought that captured the essence of what they were trying to convey, which is we're a faith community. Pray for us, of course. Pray for these families. Pray for our healing. Pray for how we move forward. And I think no matter if you're religious or not, no matter if you're Catholic, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, everybody can understand that sentiment of prayer or hope if you're not a religious person and keeping people in your thoughts. But that he said, move your feet. And that is the call to action part of this all, right? Is that you can pray for us, but also, we need your support at this time. And that means going a step further. And I've been thinking a lot about that as I reflect on this moment. And I haven't yet taken time to kind of journal for my own thoughts, but that's certainly something that will be at the top of the page for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the darkest parts of the story is they were praying when this happened, which the mayor pointed out yesterday as well. There were a number of vigils held last night. Of course, this is hitting the community so hard. How did they process that? What did that look like? It just must be also sad.
Yeah, I think by them showing up, that shows how people are processing it. This state has gone through such a hard summer. You may recall that there was the political assassination of the former House Speaker of the Minnesota legislature, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, and the attempted killing by a masked gunman, an accused assassin who faces federal charges for murdering them and stalking them. Another lawmaker and his wife are recovering from their injuries. And that really sent shockwaves across the state, and people are still so heartbroken. And the amount of support that I saw at that moment, which was, hundreds of people waiting in line outside of the Minnesota Capitol building to pay their respects to the Hortmans and their dog Gilbert, who also lost his life in that attack. Them showing up to these 2 vigils in the way that they did, that just says what Minnesota is about. Jamie, you know this. High voter turnout, high volunteerism. That's because people care. I think those 2 markers signify how Minnesotans care about their community. And when they show up, even if they didn't know anybody who went to Annunciation, it's because they just want to do something, and sometimes something is as small yet so significant as just being present for other people. And I think we saw that on full display last night, and we've certainly seen it this summer in a really big way as we grapple with yet another devastating tragedy that no one could have predicted and that everyone wishes weren't true.
Yeah, Caroline, I just I hope you're doing okay, because I know you cover government, so what you're talking about, you were very invested in covering and making sure to now be at the forefront of this. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I'm glad to hear you're journaling. It sounds like you have a self-care routine. So
Very important. Yeah.
But we
I
think,
got a little treat this morning, so there you go. That's sometimes all I need is a little pastry.
That's all you, right. Sometimes the little things to get you through, especially times like these. Caroline, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate your support and that you're keeping Minnesota in your hearts today. So thank you.
We certainly
Always.
are.